The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, the beginning of another week, and we got all kinds of things to talk about as usual. But well, you want to hit the breaking news about the jail, and then we can get into the local stuff.
The new sheriff, Paul Heroux, has announced that it is his plan to close the Ash Street jail. And next week, he's going to invite, or has invited, all the state delegation to come down, review the jail, and see why it needs to be closed, besides the fact that there's a court order to close that goes back 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if the state delegation agrees with it. He said that he will house the people from the Ash Street jail at the old ICE detention center at the Dartmouth Street facility, at the Dartmouth facility. It's going to be interesting to see because the Ash Street jail is the only ancient working jail of its time in the country. It's the oldest working jail in the country.
Yeah, it's our version of the black hole of Calcutta.
Yeah, it's, you know.
That place was supposedly, and fortunately I never visited the place. It was a real crap hole even years ago.
Yep.
And it's people are incarcerated. They're incarcerated. They should at least have, good living conditions at least. I mean, so I guess Heroux is really, doing a lot out of the gate here.
Yeah, he's
doing an awful lot. Maybe everybody doesn't agree with what he does, but he's doing something.
And he said he was going to do that.
Yeah, he's living up to his and saying. But now, this morning on WSAR, our reporters in the field, our sources in the field, have informed us that apparently this is the feeble attempt of the administration to pretend that they actually care about affordable housing, even though on record we know they have basically said we don't care about it. And we're not going to give, because I got 2 or 3 reports on this, and the numbers were a little different. Somebody said they were saying that DIon said they built 45 units, and they didn't build anything. The developers put these people in. But 45 units, somebody said 31 units and 22, but they're very small numbers.
31 sounds about right, because I know the projects. And the way these were created was Mike DIon from CDA gave these developers some money. And because he gave them some money, they had to allocate some affordable units. Now, the affordable units require that you meet their income guidelines before you even get into the lottery, because it's a lottery to get one of those apartments. And the last time I was at a lottery, I believe it was the Alden Street Mills, I don't know if it was the Knitting Mills complex is what they're calling it or whatever. But there was like 600 people for 4 units. How are they going to do that? 600 people for 4 units.
Of course. Well, this is the real point. They're on there now trying to say that throwing a crumb to 10,000 starving people is adequate. And realistically, like you said, 600 people for 4 units. Now, we're going to do a lot more research on this issue because obviously it's going to be a campaign issue, and we're not going to let the con artist, the con man Coogan, try to pretend that he did anything about this that actually showed a commitment to affordable housing, because we know. I can get on the U.S. Census Bureau to see the number of multiple families, but we're going to make a request that we break it down by 2 families, 3 families, 6 families. How many units do we have in Fall River? And if you're going to build 31 a year, it'll take about 120 years before you can get enough housing for the people who really need affordable housing based on the income. And to corroborate that, this is a little thing that we pulled. We will get into it in detail, but I'll just give you some staggering facts, okay? And before I do, I'll let you know some of the metrics that they used. Cost of living total with rent, without rent, rent and utilities, food, transportation, monthly salary after tax, quality of life, population, and then they got it broken down by 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, utility bills. This is a pretty comprehensive breakdown. And what was the result of this comprehensive breakdown? This is what this says, and I'm reading this verbatim. The average cost of living in Fall River is $2,228, which is in the top 3% of the most expensive cities in the world, ranked 301st out of 9,294 on our global list, 234th out of 2,202 in the United States, and 19th out of 92 in Massachusetts. So what does this say? You don't have to be a rocket science to say that this rating, that we're in the top 3% in the world. This place is an expensive city full of poor people.
Yep.
So, let's get to the bottom line, because we can start, well, it says here that the median. Well, that's the thing. People don't like us using average, median, but that's what happens. But if you look at this statistic, it says that realistically, and somewhere in this article, and they've even got a nice little bar graph here, and it's a 10-page report. And I'm going to get the entire 10 pages and break it down for you. But we had to respond to that con job that they put on the radio that, oh, don't worry about it. We are addressing the issue. You're not addressing the issue. And it's not even Paul Coogan who addressed the issue. It's a federal program that's addressing the issue. This is clueless Paul, who's already gone on record fundamentally as saying, you don't like it, go jump in a river. Go move somewhere else. You don't have a say because you live in public housing. Go buy a house and then you can talk. I mean, that's total disregard.
How about if you like what's going on in New Bedford?
Yeah, if you like, oh yeah, I forgot that one. Thanks, CJ. Thanks for reminding me. If you don't like it, yeah, go live in New Bedford. Yeah. But this is the kind of cavalier attitude that this man has. He has never addressed anything, and all he does is take care of his friends. And now, because he knows this is going to be a campaign issue, and he does have someone who has said he is going to run. And to try to say it's not going to work, I mean, we're on record. And we revert back to the agreement they made on the project, Watapa Heights, that they said it was for veterans, low income, handicapped, etc. The whole thing.
Right.
And Paul tried to jump out of that by saying, oh, we got enough because it's public housing. No, we don't have enough.
And Paul did respond to that, because we mentioned that on a previous show. And Paul did respond to that, and he said that he never said that, which is true.
Rumsey did.
Rumsey said it. Okay.
For him.
Right.
Because who does Rumsey speak for?
For the mayor.
Oh, okay.
For the mayor.
I just wanted to clarify that. Because there's Paul picking out one number out of 150,000.
But again, just like he does with words, you know that he picks out one word.
One word. Out of context.
But in fairness, Paul didn't say it himself. Somebody else said it who works for him and who usually speaks on his behalf. And that was said at a city council meeting, and you can go find that video and review it. Because I spoke with City Councilor DIon about that, and she remembered it very vividly. And so,
well, look, you can say you're being fair. I think that's being disingenuous, because when you get your mouthpiece to say it, and then saying you didn't say it when you've gone fundamentally, everybody knows you're not in favor of affordable housing. You're not being fair. He's being disingenuous.
Right.
He's trying to do what he always does, pass the buck, deflect, because that's what he does best. He's going to say, oh, I gave it to Catholic Social Services. Oh, I gave it to the developers. What plan have you ever put forth to deal with it? This clearly shows that this is a very, very expensive city to live in, because why? Why is it that way? It's that way because we have rents, and then they take the comparison to the ability to pay those rents, and it's an expensive place. So this vividly shows why affordable housing should be a major priority here. And again, being disingenuous and pretending that he cares or he's going to work on it is like saying, well, I'm working on education. Remember, I was a school committeeman for 2 terms. I worked in the system. I'm the mayor. I'm the chairman of and we're ranked 335th. Have we ever seen a plan for anything? Affordable housing from Paul? No, his plan is to give it to somebody else. Did we ever see a plan with him as a school committeeman to help turn our educational system around? No. Have we heard anything about it now? No. And I'm sure he'll pretend that he's going to do something about it or has done it, but we don't see it. That's the problem. This is just, look, as I said, let's judge the person on what they do. Not if they're nice guys or you think they're nice guys. The guy next door that's a nice plumber and sucks as a plumber, you know, you're really dumb if you keep him on as your plumber.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's do that. And to segue, go ahead, CJ. I see you're looking at that, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm looking at that because I'm reading this. 1-bedroom apartment in the city, $905 on average. A cheap 1-bedroom apartment, which you got to look at these numbers because they go up, $1,343. A 3-bedroom apartment in the city in the center, $1,704. A cheap 3-bedroom apartment in the city, $2,522.
Yeah, and yeah, you look at those numbers. You remember those numbers are going up because of what's coming up. This is what's happened.
And the utility bill is way off. I'm telling you now. Utility bill for one person for electric, heating, and water is $1,222 a month.
That's before the massive increase.
That's right. That's before the 75% increase here and 25% increase there, plus the water increases.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is mind-boggling. We're going to get the whole study. We're going to dig it out, and we're going to look at it. But, you know, let's get down to the bottom line, the moral of the story. The moral of the story is simple. Our mayor has done nothing and has not prioritized one of the most, the most important issue in the state of Massachusetts by the words of our governor. She has been sworn in. And I heard those words being spoken live at the Macris convention.
And she has said it again.
And she has said it again.
Since she's been sworn.
She understands it. Isn't it amazing that everybody, Mitchell over in New Bedford, Attleboro, Brockton, everywhere else, the mayors understand this. And Fall River's worse off than all those cities we just named. They all understand that we got a problem. Paul goes, what? No problem. We don't have a problem. We built 31. Oh, really? That's addressing an issue when we got literally thousands of people, when 600 people got into a lottery for 4 units. That is a travesty. How about the other 596 that didn't get an apartment?
That's right.
How about them, Paul? You don't care about them. You are clueless. All you do is deflect and be disingenuous. I didn't say that. No, I told Rumsey to say that. You know, I didn't say that. Mike DIon said it. I didn't say that. Well, guess what? You're the mayor. You're the guy that's supposed to be saying what you're going to do to address all the problems we have in Fall River. And while we're on that, we had another issue with that fiasco that went down at the library. and there was a initial report that there was a little with a local resident who went and complained right on the spot, and we know who it was, and he is someone who is, calls the radio stations a lot, was involved in a recall, is someone who expresses his opinion, which is great. That's what we believe in, and we don't have to agree or disagree, but we like people who are not afraid to stand up and fight for what they believe in or take a position on things. So he approached the mayor, according to the reports, he approached the mayor and was complaining about the number of police officers committed to that with the way this city is understaffed. And they got into by his own words, a heated argument. And I guess he said, and obviously these are allegedly said, but he's gone on the radio and fundamentally didn't go absolutely specific, but we're going to read you an article that was posted about this. But I guess he said, well, there's bullets flying all over the city, and if you want to see a bullet hole, come to my home. And Paul's another absolutely cavalier, dismissive kind of response was, just because because you got a bullet hole in your house doesn't mean bullets are flying all over the city. Well, apparently, Paul, you haven't read all the newspaper articles and the news media reports about shell casings being picked up, bullets flying all over the city. So this is like bigger print, so I can actually, without having to do this, I can read it. This is the story that was posted, and it says, developing story. According to sources in close proximity between Paul Coogan and the concerned city resident we mentioned about last Saturday, apparently that conversation got, quote, heated, unquote, very quickly. This individual said to the mayor, quote, Paul, with the number of police officers used here today, there's so many bullets flying across Fall River. Want to come to my house and see one? Unquote. The mayor said in response, quote, just because you have one doesn't mean bullets are flying around in Fall River, unquote. Wow. Talking about being insensitive and out of touch. Hashtag clueless mayor. So I guess you can comment on that one.
Well, it's interesting because that whole incident at the library, and I got a lot of phone calls from the Flush because, as you know, I wrote about that incident.
That's right.
And I've been called a homophobe, a transphobe. I mean, and it just makes me laugh. But I said very clearly I don't support that event because of the trauma that could be induced on the children. Now, what was interesting about that event was Paul was seen with some of the people dressed in military garb, cami and whatnot, and all of them were masked. And the funny thing was, those weren't Proud Boys, they weren't Nazis. They left. They went to Taunton.
Yeah.
That was the LGBT supporters, the Pride Committee supporters. And they're the ones that were dropping the F-bombs. And that's a shame. Yeah. This is their event, and this is what they're saying. Now, one of the Pride supporters turned around and said on Channel 10 News, we got this many people out here to have a show of force. A show of force is asking for a problem. No, okay? You're asking for a problem. And I don't care if you want to dress up as, a chicken. I don't care if you identify as a parrot. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, isn't it amazing that they always talk about Proud Boys, quote, I don't believe there were really Proud Boys there because Proud Boys is a, of course they want to use that to try to say, look, they're all
right.
They're all terrorists and stuff. But isn't it ironic that that these people who are always talking about everybody engaging in hate speech are actually engaging in hate speech themselves? Because I believe I'm trying to pull it up as we speak, but there was a big, again, they called one of the people that is our friend, who was an openly gay member of that community and has been very active in that community. And because he didn't agree with that particular aspect of what was going on, they eviscerated him.
I know who you're talking about. And as a matter of fact, when he made a comment which was not even regarding the issue, somebody had said something about either being trans or something along that lines. He turned around, he says, people have a choice to make, or something along that line. And he went back to the Pride Committee meeting, and they turned around and they bounced him.
Yeah,
they bounced him.
Isn't it ironic that these people who talk about, that they want inclusion, they want the right to voice their opinion, but then they turn around and condemn the other person. And there was an exchange in about one of those people who was arguing with another person on Facebook, which is why I don't do Facebook.
Yep.
Because and I guess it was somebody, and you probably would know the name, but it was a female member. And she was telling the person on Facebook that we're not gonna, we will never ever give up our First Amendment rights to say.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, that we'll never give up our First Amendment rights. And the irony was the individual wasn't even talking about the demonstration. He was just saying that there were two separate sides, and he was reporting on the demonstration.
Yep.
Not about, but you see, they turned hate in. So.
Oh yeah, because we were. This show was mentioned in that post, if you remember correctly.
Yeah.
And
well, because obviously that. Because we would allow her to say anything she wants, and she's invited to come here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we will just counter her arguments with another argument. But their response is always to suppress freedom of speech. We remember that the Proud Boys, that's it. It's a lightning rod. Yeah. Oh, the psycho right. How about the psycho left? How about Antifa? And does anybody ever condemn Antifa that took all that money and bought a lot of houses, but they killed people, they caused billions of dollars worth of property damage? Oh, but that's okay, because there's really no freedom of speech. But this was the response I thought was very nice to her comment about the First Amendment. Obviously, you have a reading comprehension issue. I stated that there were two different sides at this demonstration. I did not take a position on which side was right or wrong. You assumed that anything that disagreed with your opinion is hate speech. I found it ironic that you mentioned the First Amendment, because the First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech to everyone, not just people who have an opinion that agrees with yours. You are actually engaging in hate speech by characterizing what I said as hate speech. The greatest example of the First Amendment was when the ACLU, which is comprised of many lawyers who are Jewish, defended the American Nazi Party's right to demonstrate. Study your history before you engage in what you may despise the most, which is hate speech.
And that it was the National Socialist Party versus Skokie, Illinois.
Exactly.
1977.
And you had Jewish lawyers defending the right to have the American Nazi Party walk down the street with signs saying, "Kill all the Jews."
Yep.
So, these people, this is a tactic of the left all the time. Cancel people, demean people, label them as a terrorist when they're saying, "I don't agree." And then they invoke the First Amendment, but they're in conflict with the First Amendment. You cannot suppress somebody else's.
That's right.
Nobody is talking about violence, and as you said, that ACLU case was very clear. The ACL knew what they were defending. They were defending the right of speech, and if the Nazi Party went through with those things, they would be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That's what makes America such a great nation, that people with opinions that you differ with, some vehemently, like there are on, pro-life, pro-choice, have the right to speak.
No question about it. And I'll tell you now, we've always been supporters of open debate, open discussion. I mean, let's be real. We like the House of Commons.
That's right. True.
We like heated discussions. But We want civil discussions. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to agree with everything that somebody is saying. You can disagree, but you've got to try to see people from their position. When you don't try to see things from their position, this is what generates the hate speech. And I know people that have looked at this issue on both sides. And as a matter of fact, at that last demonstration at the library, there were 6 people who were demonstrating against it, and they were parents. They were parents. That now.
Oh, no, they were Nazis. They were terrorists. They were Proud Boys.
Those people left and went to Taunton. I know that.
I'm just being, I'm being facetious.
I know you are. But the thing is, those people left and went to Taunton. As a matter of fact, in Taunton, they marched in to the story time because they couldn't stop them. Mm-hmm. Okay? And you know, do I agree that they should march in and disturb a story time? No, I don't. And am I against literacy? No. But at the same time, you're saying that you're trying to get people for inclusivity and, you know, tolerance, and that's not your job to teach. That's the job of the parents to teach. That's the job of our schools to teach. That's the job of our churches to teach. That's not the job of a group of people who have a vested interest in their position. And as long as you have that interest, you can't be neutral.
No, you're right, CJ, and I think you have, you know, because they mentioned you by name.
Oh, yeah.
As they did with the other individual who, as I said, was ironically in their caucus at one time. Mm-hmm. And he got, you know, that's what really irritates me about this. How do these people make the jump that because you put a label on something, it diffuses the other person's argument? Because it doesn't. That's all. That is really hate speech. Look, First Amendment doesn't guarantee, it doesn't say that you have the freedom of speech to speak only when everybody agrees with what you say. No, it says you can speak. You have everything from I don't like speech to I hate it. Listen, you can stand across the street and have them yell, I hate you, and you can yell right back across the street, I hate you too.
That's right.
That's fine. Or I dislike you.
Yes.
Or I don't agree with that opinion. Mm-hmm. But that's what the First Amendment is about. Peaceful discourse. The ability to say, okay, you can say anything you want in the United States, and that's what the ACLU case so vividly showed. That they are defending their right to say something that they hate.
As a matter of fact, that case is used in almost every law school in the country in their constitutional law class. Yep. Because that demonstrated the need for the control of the no control on First Amendment, that people have to have their right to speak.
Nobody's telling you to like it, but when you say you can't say it, you're the person that is violating the Constitution and spewing hate speech.
Mm-hmm. And again, I cannot support that event as long as they're going to be standing out front with 100 people and screaming F this, F that, F this, F that, F this, with children present.
Well, yeah, but you just remember, just look at what we're looking at.
But that's their first right.
We're looking at Antifa's actions, which they did things like that and killed people, versus any right wing, who, as far as I know, no right wing organizations killed anybody in a major riot like Antifa did for an entire year.
Right. Right.
So it's, you know, the rules, they want 2 sets of rules. Unfortunately, the Constitution says every American has the right to speak.
Yeah, and we've seen this for years. Since Roe v. Wade, and now since Roe v. Wade's been overturned, we see it. I mean, that is a very big hot button issue, and people are divided. That divides families sometimes, that issue. But you have to look at this from the point of view that that's their right to speak. That's their right to hold their opinion. I may not like your opinion, but guess what? That's your right. And I cannot force my opinion down your throat, because when I force my opinion down your throat, I am suppressing your right to speak and your right to have independent thought. And we can't do that. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday. Have a great day.
To be continued.